Welcome out into the Fantasy Football Forge. My name is Steve, and we have reached the final video in this series, the top 10 tight ends of the 2025 NFL Draft. You can find, first of all, this is the most predictive position according to the measurables, according to what I was able to find, that being, the stuff at the combine, the physical and athletic stuff. So you can check out previous less predictive positions in videos that I've already released. Those links are in the description to all of those videos. Safety, edge, interior offensive line, wide receiver, cornerback, linebacker, offensive tackle, running back, interior defensive line. All available for you based on what you're interested in. There are also links in the description to a lot of other things. You got my top 90 rankings, which maybe by the time this has come out is 150 or so. I don't know. I got to get that up. I've looked at 442 players, and of those players, almost all of them you can find my strengths, weaknesses, and other notes for on the Discord server. There's a link for that in the description. There's also a link to my website where my big mock drafts are stored. My 1.0, 2.0 have already come out, and by the time that this comes out, I am hopefully fully entrenched in working on my 3.0, which I'm hoping will be 4 rounds. It'll definitely be 3 rounds. And with all that said, let's get to my top tight ends of the 2025 NFL Draft. And we've got some honorable mentions, as always, to start this video off on guys who aren't in my top 10, but I want to point out for one reason or another. First off, Jalen Connors just missed the list here at tight end 11. I don't think that he looks as good, like he's as good of an athlete as the testing numbers suggested, but the testing numbers were the best of the class for me in terms of his athletic score and my personal athletic score, which just looks at the athletics that have the best correlation to players' success at the next level. Then we look at Thomas Fidone the second. He is unassuming, but he's actually really good. Then we got Malik Carr. He is the opposite of unassuming. Malik Carr stands out like a sore thumb, and I love it. He is probably my favorite tight end in this class. Doesn't mean he's my highest ranked tight end. Doesn't mean I think that he's going to be for sure successful at the next level. He's unique. I love it. I hope he's successful. I want to see him play on Sundays. That brings us to my last one. Another one. I want to see him play on Sundays just because, oh my God, dude. Robbie Ouzts? I don't know. Robbie is the absolute widest human being that I've ever seen. Jonah Savanaia. If you thought that dude was wide, I think Robbie's 2 Jonahs. I mean, holy cow. Just go look at some pictures of this dude, specifically from the combine when he's in like all of his undersized clothing, I would say. That's going to bring us on to my 10th ranked tight end prospect, Orande Gadsden II out of Syracuse, 6'4.5", 245 pounds. There's his athletic combine numbers up ahead of you if they tested, and I didn't forget to put them. Those numbers will be posted for your viewing pleasure. Orande Gadsden very recently moved from being a wide receiver to being a tight end. There's plenty of development left to go in that transition, but so far, it's been really smooth. I think he has the potential to age like a fine wine and become a better blocker and give more and more reps as an inline tight end over time. Until then, he can just be a nice receiving tight end. His PFF grading on his blocking was actually really good, which, once again, moved from wide receiver to tight end recently. You love to see the progression that he's moving at. That's going to bring us on to my other 4th round prospect here, Jackson Hawes, 6'4.5", 252 pounds, out of Georgia Tech, by the way. And once upon a time, tight ends were just a team's 6th offensive lineman who occasionally went out for a reception. These days, the public likes to ignore these guys, just like they did A.J. Barner last year. Jackson Hawes is this year's A.J. Barner, meaning he's the best blocking tight end in this class. Teams still want these guys on their rosters, and I appreciate them too. So Jackson Hawes here, 4th round. Look for him to go starting around that territory. That's going to bring us on to my number 8 ranked prospect, a surprise. He is barely going drafted by a lot of people's standards. Also, I have seen some love for him. E.J. Snyder, I know, loves him. I don't know that he agrees with how high I'm on him. I don't know. He might. But, nonetheless, Ole Miss, Caden Prieskorn, 6'5.5", 255 pounds. You never hear people talk about these guys, so I'm really not 100% sure about a lot of their pronunciations. But sometimes you put a guy's tape on, and very quickly you're like, that is an NFL tight end. And that was what it was like in this case. That's my experience with Caden. I think that Pat Freiermuth was one of those guys for me where I just said, oh, yeah, I mean, he's going to be successful at the NFL level. Caden is extremely quarterback friendly, and he really knows how to find the soft spots against zone coverage. Put him into a West Coast style offense, and I think that he's going to be finding some success. I think that he can come in and contribute in 2 tight end sets year one. His ceiling as a receiver is limited, and his floor as a blocker isn't quite as high as you would wish. For someone that I have an early 4th round grade on, that is. But with a little bit of development in both of those cases, I don't think we need a whole heck of a lot of development, just a little bit in both. I think that he could become a starting tight end number 1 in relatively short order. I'm not saying that he's going to be the best tight end in the league for any period of time, but I am saying a starting tight end for a team for a period of time. Let's go on to my 6B prospect here in Elijah Arroyo out of Miami, 6'5", 251 pounds. Elijah is a Y tight end. He is a seam ripper. A couple of quick numbers. He has a 79th percentile average depth of target and 94th percentile yak. Yeah, he's pretty good with the ball in his hands, and he's pretty good getting the ball deep down the field. Big chunk getter. He's better against zone than he is against man, which for his skill set, I wish that was even the reverse would be fine with that. He has a big wingspan, and he has excellent hands. If you're looking for a receiving tight end who can threaten deep, this is your guy. His ability to threaten in the short and intermediate, however, is a little bit less and less the closer you get to the line of scrimmage. Not a sure thing. And although he's a willing blocker, he's not a very good one. Elijah is a low-risk, high-upside developmental prospect in my book. I have little doubt that he'll be able to rip a seam in the NFL. It's everything else that I'm not so sure about. He is my 90th ranked prospect, but I can't stress this enough about him and some of these following guys. I would be okay with taking them much earlier than pick 90, and that will generally be true, once again, for a group of these tight ends until we get to the top 2. That's to bring us on to Harold Fannin Jr. out of Bowling Green, 6'3", 239 pounds. If you remember Elijah Arroyo, 6B, Harold Fannin, 6A. What are you looking for? 2 receiving tight ends, but totally different skill sets. Totally different. He had one of the best, if not the best, college football season for a tight end ever. But he is an odd duck, and the NFL doesn't always know how to utilize these kinds of prospects. He best comps to guys like Jonnu Smith, Chig Okonkwo, and Isaiah Likely. However, I really don't think that does his potential justice. At the same time, those are all guys that we've also gotten very excited about the potential for. Still, his makeup is different. I think you have to think H-back when you think of Harold Fannin Jr.'s skill set. And unfortunately, that's a role that hardly exists in the modern NFL. Don't get me wrong, he's more versatile than that. But I think to get the most out of him and to get the best out of him, you're going in with the mindset of H-back will go a long ways. I think that he can be deadly in 3rd and short and red zone types of opportunities, really important downs. Anything within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage is right in his wheelhouse. Think like a juiced up Kyle Juszczyk. The coaches I'd most like to see him go to are Sean Payton, Joker, Kyle Shanahan, like I just said, that Juszczyk, George Kittle, somewhere in between the two type of role, which is, exciting. And, of course, Andy Reid, really creative, especially with his tight ends. He knows how to get the most out of them. Those are the 3 coaches, the 3 systems, that I really, really would like to see him go to and succeed. I would say also, for a reason that we're going to get into shortly, any remainings of the New England offense out there, he could potentially be a fit for those guys. And I'm going to go out here and I'm going to say that I don't think that Harold Fannin Jr., I wouldn't exactly call him a developmental prospect. I think he's a day 1 tight end 2 in the right system, and I'm going to steal a comp here for his tight end 1 upside, even though this guy I don't know was ever truly a tight end 1, but obviously he had this potential in him. And this comp that I'm stealing is where I got that New England reference from. And I do apologize. I forget. It might be Charles McDonnell. Is that his name? Who made this comparison that I'm stealing it from. But a comp for him that makes enough sense here. Aaron Hernandez. That's his upside. Would be an Aaron Hernandez type of player. So obviously, take all the off-field stuff. Ignore that. His on-field skills. Harold Fannin Jr. I mean, Yeah, that's worth a pretty high draft pick if he were to reach that type of ceiling. Once again, the NFL just doesn't have the best track record with these types of guys. But get the right situation, the right coaching staff, and I get very excited. That's going to bring us on to my third-ranked prospects, my 3A, 3B, 3C. We're in another situation where truly they're all just my third-ranked prospect. Up top, you have Mason Taylor out of LSU, 6'5", 250 pounds. Then you've got Gunnar Helm in the middle there, out of Texas, 6'5", 241 pounds. And at the bottom of the screen, we've got Terrence Ferguson out of Oregon, 6'5.5", 246 pounds. All three of these guys, to varying degrees, are modern, versatile, receiving move tight ends who can also line up in line like a traditional tight end could. You pick your favorite one of these guys and you draft them. This is the order that I ended up on them. Obviously, there are differences between the three, however. Mason's the one who maybe has the highest ceiling of the bunch, and it seems like the NFL thinks that way as well. But I think that he's also the most raw prospect out of this group. Also, look at his little baby face, clearly quite young yet. So that's part of the equation that maybe I ignore a little bit too much in my grading of him. Gunnar Helm, by far, was utilized the most as an inline tight end out of these three, but I think that he can be used as a move tight end more than he was in college without any issue. I would say that he has the highest floor out of these three because of his ability as an inline tight end and how much he's proven that. And then lastly, there's Terrence Ferguson, of course, and I think that he is the best and most dynamic receiver out of the group. Pure pass catcher, I like him the most. And in the modern NFL, a pure pass catching tight end can get you a long ways and be very important. I don't think that you want to rely on any of these guys to be your tight end one on day one, but each has the potential to develop and quite possibly very quickly into teams' tight end ones in the short term, intermediate term, future for wherever they end up going. That's going to bring us on to my second ranked prospect. Once again, those third ranked prospects, I won't be surprised if they go higher than where I have them ranked. By the way, looking at the past 5 prospects, I forgot to write down where I had them ranked. Elijah Arroyo, I have him as my 90th overall prospect. Maybe I did cover that one. Harold Fannin Jr., 88th overall prospect. And then the last 3, my third-ranked prospects, I have them as my tight end, my overall ranked, players, 75, 76, and 77. So, following suit to what I said near the top of this video, those 3, wouldn't be surprised if any of them go higher. Some people even think that Mason Taylor might sneak into the top end, or the back end, I should say, of the first round. But without further ado, on to my top 2 prospects, starting off with Colston Loveland. So you know who my number 1 prospect is. Colston Loveland coming out of Michigan, 6'6", 248 pounds. Colston Loveland is a really good receiving tight end. He was basically elite in terms of efficiency at 2.67 yards per route run. He can win on routes to all areas of the field, inside, outside, deep, down the middle of the field, coming back to the quarterback. It's all good. And he's really good at beating man coverage, which is something that the league covets and really appreciates. When he fails to get open, however, he does struggle to catch the ball through contact. In fact, he's bad at it. He is also quite poor at getting yards after the catch. Colston Loveland should be able to come in and start year 1. He is my 14th overall ranked prospect. That is going to bring us on to my number 1, number 1 overall ranked prospect. My number 1 tight end prospect here, Tyler Warren. Holy cow, that was tough to get out. Penn State, 6'5.5", 256 pounds. Much like Colston Loveland, Tyler Warren was also a highly efficient receiver with 2.77 yards per route run. As receivers, I don't have a big separation between Colston Loveland and Tyler Warren, but I do like how Warren moves better on tape. What separates the two, however, is all the other stuff that Tyler Warren can bring to the table. He can line up anywhere, including his ability to be a wildcat quarterback for you. I value that because if I was an offensive coordinator, I would utilize those types of things. That said, there are reasons to be concerned. I have a surprising amount of negatives written for a guy who is my 11th ranked prospect overall. And that's just kind of where this class is. And that's why he's not in my top 10 anymore. Because I went back, I re-reviewed him for this, and I'm like, the difference between him and Colston Loveland is closer than expected. I actually, in last year's draft, I think would have been more in on these guys late in the first round. Not anywhere, near Brock Bowers. But They're not Brock Bowers, and especially Tyler Warren. Well, we'll get to what perception and reality in terms of his blocking upside, which is part of why I have moved Tyler Warren from being in my top 10, outside of my top 10. So, Tyler Warren is at a physical disadvantage, first of all. We're going over those negatives that I have listed in my notes. Once again, links in the description to all these things. He has very short arms, and he has an extremely small wingspan. Still, he was a very good contested catcher, though, so that concerns me less than maybe it should, because also that does impact his blocking ability, which we'll get to. He is not necessarily an explosive player. He doesn't display great acceleration, but like I said, I still like how he moves a little bit, maybe in the Mason Taylor grouping of just kind of smooth to some extent. Some people think he's tight-hipped. I see that a little less on film, though, than I do the smoothness. I would like to see him utilize his blockers better on screens and the like. We're going to get to the amount of screens and stuff that he saw in a little bit. Actually, let's, I think, do that... No, in just a little bit. He's not a great separator against man coverage, like I've talked about. The NFL definitely covets guys who can separate against man coverage, even though they run more zone than man coverage. And Tyler Warren gets over his toes and thus has bad balance very often, too often. You see him stumble in the open field, and this aligns with his athletic profile. And for me, being a Green Bay Packer fan, this is very much aligns with the Luke Musgrave special. This is a guy who caught a ball with nobody anywhere near him and tripped and wasn't able to get a touchdown because of that. I mean, one of the most clumsy plays I've ever seen, and there is a clumsy element to Tyler Warren's game. Now, getting back to all of those screens that you see him do and how I would like to see him utilize his blockers a little bit better when he's in those types of opportunities. A good chunk of Tyler Warren's work and his touches were manufactured touches at Penn State. That means basically the play is drawn up to get the ball into his hands, and that's basically it. And a good part of me does get concerned by that kind of production. For wide receivers who are highly reliant on manufactured production, that definitely reduces my overall thought on them, despite the fact that you can get a Deebo Samuel and they can work. But of course, that's also more of a unicorn type of situation, and you don't always want to bet on unicorns. The other part of me, however, sees this, especially for a guy like Tyler Warren and the rest of his tape, and in this situation, and you see all this manufactured stuff, and you say, well, the fact that the team is willing to rely on him so much and put him into these types of situations, and the fact that he has the ability to be utilized in all these different situations, it tells you a lot about the overall skill set of the guy and how much they like him, and might also tell you about some of their other weapons that they have that maybe are lacking. Of course, is another negative to that argument. So there's two sides to the coin of all this manufactured work. It is not inherently a negative thing, especially I think when you watch the rest of the tape. I see Tyler Warren succeed doing all of the normal tight end stuff to enough that it's not all manufactured. It's not 100% a concern for me. Also, last of all here for the negatives, and I guess I'm spinning them positives, is that Warren is not the blocker that some may lead you to think he is. He is a highlight reel blocker. He absolutely knocks guys off of their feet on some blocks. He is a blue-collared, he has some mean streak to him despite that clumsy play as well, but he's not a consistently good blocker, and I do doubt that he'll ever reach a true ceiling there because of some of the limitations with his arm length and wingspan. That goes a long ways for his pass blocking upside. But I do think, especially in the run blocking department, that he will become better than he was at the college level. Like, I just think that he has that type of mentality that whatever he is, he's going to get the most out of it. So I have some confidence in that department for him. But I do think that I had been overvaluing his blocking ability over time. Over the last month or two, I'd kind of forgotten that maybe that's not exactly as good as advertised sometimes. And so that's just one of those last knocks. All that to say that Tyler Warren is not a blue chip prospect in my book, nor is Colston Loveland, but I do think that they're both worthy of going in the first round, especially in this year's draft. That's all of the positional videos. This is the end of it. We're wrapping up here. I hope you enjoyed, and don't forget to join me while I am covering the draft here live on YouTube. You can pop in for however long that you wish to. I will be covering the entirety of the draft, and also the lives of my draft coverage will, of course, be posted as soon as they're done. As soon as I'm done, they should go live. So thank you very, very much. I hope that you enjoy the draft, whether you join me or not. That's coming very soon by the time that this video is posted. Peace out.